Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 22 of the Modern Brewer podcast with me, your host, Chris Lewington. We're going to have our first returning guest on the show. For those avid listeners who can remember episode 17, you'll remember Jan Paul, a brewing consultant who, in previous employment, had installed the first ever Dalum CO2 recovery unit. Well, straight after we recorded that episode, Jan proposed another topic that he thought the listeners would enjoy: sustainable refrigeration. Refrigeration is a part we all rely on. But how well do you know your refrigeration plant? Do you know what type of refrigerant it uses? Some refrigerants contain chemicals that have a global warming potential 2,500 times higher than the same weight of CO2. And are you aware of the upcoming legislation changes in the EU that will impact the craft brewing industry? With Jan Paul is Max Buchner from Trainer Rogenkamp, a German refrigeration plant manufacturer. Before we get into it, this episode is brought to you by Dalum Beverage Equipment, pioneers in manufacturing CO2 recovery units for the craft breweries of all sizes. Whether you're a small craft brewery or a larger operation, Dalum Beverage Equipment has you covered. Their innovative CO2 recovery units are designed to help breweries become self-sufficient with CO2 by recovering, purifying, liquefying, and storing CO2 from their fermentation processes. This not only reduces costs, but also assists brewers in achieving self-sufficiency with their own CO2 supply and minimizing environmental impact. So if you're a brewery looking to enhance sustainability and operational efficiency, consider Dalum Beverage Equipment for your CO2 recovery needs. Visit their website today to learn more, and of course their website will be in the show notes. So we're ready to get into the episode. As always, I really hope you enjoy the content. Get ready, folks. This gets nice and technical. I was learning so much as Max and Jan were speaking. They're incredibly gifted individuals and they make a great duo. So, welcome to the show, Max and Jan.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. So, Jan, do you want to just introduce yourself to the listeners once again? Because for those who remember, Jan was also involved in episode 18 on carbon recapture. So, Jan, would you just like to reintroduce yourself to the listeners who haven't listened to that episode yet?
Well, I gladly will. My name is Jan Paul. I have a degree in brewing engineering from the University in Munich, Weinstefan. And I'm the former long-term brewmaster at Svenning Bryghus in Denmark, and been doing a lot of lecturing through the years at the University of Copenhagen, Scandinavian School of Brewing, and Stirling College in Vermont, and consultancy around the world. And last year, I went solo with my own consultancy business, JP Brewing Consulting, and I'm super willing to travel, highly flexible. My main fields are microbiology, microscopy, staff training, yeast management, fermentation, alcoholic, lager yeast, wild yeast, CO2 recovery, as and the audience might remember, cooling with natural refrigerants, but also greenfield projects, brewery projects.
Awesome, man. Yeah, it's a really good list. Also, I mean, great university to get your degree from as well. So big respect for that.
Thanks.
Max, how would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Yes, of course. Hi, I'm Max Buchner. I'm from Germany. I, for myself, cooling and refrigerant technician. I have a kind of a bachelor, we called it in Germany, handcraft master, for example. And I work for Trainer Rogenkamp from Munich. The company itself is a service and sales partner for Train products. Those Train products are mostly huge or large chillers in different ways. And the department I work for is the so-called energy service. We are around 6 people, and we are working especially for energy-intensive companies. And our key accounts or our main partners are breweries. And so over the last 10 years, especially my colleague and department leader Tobias worked with way over 100 breweries, and our target is to do energy optimizing and stuff like that in the different ways of breweries.
Awesome, man. Yeah, that's great. So, yeah, and you actually reached out after the last episode and said you had this idea you really wanted to share with the listeners, and I was like, this is the perfect platform to do that with. So perhaps you could just sort of discuss what it was about this that was so exciting to you, and what this subject kind of is.
For me, who sees many breweries, I often encounter the same attitude towards brewery cooling, that it's overseen basically, and it's something that has to work. No one really thinks about what they operate, and maybe just the cheap is the key, and not spend the thought on the environmental and climate-wise impact. And this has been somewhat startling me, and also considering the energy consumption of chillers, which can be up to 45% of the total electrical energy bill. Yeah, I found that interesting to share with others that might not have spent a thought on that. So this coefficient performance that can save you a lot of money if you know a bit about basic technology behind and the refrigerants available. And yeah, also the climate-wise impact. There's a term called global warming potential, and all refrigerants applied have a global warming potential, almost all of them. And this is something you need to know, in fact. And we'll get into that on a discussion later. Basically, the history of refrigerants back to when the cooling plant was basically invented. The technology was invented by Carl von Linde in 1870s, and these refrigerants were based on fluor and fluor carbons, and these have a huge ozone deploying potential, and to be outphased by the Montreal Protocol from 1986, I believe it was. And the success was then a hydrofluorocarbon, which, on the other hand, have a high global warming potential. So these are now to be outphased by their successors again that have other problems. So the best way to deal with this is to look at natural refrigerants, and we will have a discussion about that. And install propane-based chiller in a greenfield brewery project in Svanike in Denmark back in 2007, when this was quite unheard of in the brewing industry. And this has actually been inspirational for other breweries. We've actually made other breweries install a similar system. This is why I have a somehow in-depth knowledge of this, and I want to this.
Yeah, great. And perhaps you could just tell the listeners a bit more about global warming potential and just how different, let's say, hydrofluorocarbons are in comparison to their global warming potential to, let's say, carbon dioxide, for example.
Yes. The global warming potential is defined by the equivalent of CO2 contribute to the greenhouse effect. So CO2 naturally has a CO2 equivalent of 1, and propane, for example, has a global warming potential of 3, whereas classical R410A, which is the successor of R22, has a global warming potential of 1800, which is quite a lot. Thinking of how many kilos you have of refrigerant in a chiller, this released into the atmosphere, there's a lot of climate contribution.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite astounding when you basically like 1 kilo of that is equivalent to 1,800 kilos of CO2. And it's like,
Yes.
wow, when you start thinking about that side, it gets really, I don't know, it gets quite intense on basically why refrigerant gases are actually really, really important to sustainability. Yeah, because they're
Yes.
quite complex. I guess they're not talked about enough.
Exactly. And think about all the ACs in the cars,
Oh.
everything full of refrigerants, mainly the lousy ones.
Yeah, and it's to be. I did a lot with sustainability this year with Zavira and stuff on carbon accountancy, and it's funny when you look at transport, it's so demonized, and people associate the bad emissions with the stuff that's coming out the exhaust, but actually sometimes the refrigerant can be just as bad across everything, and it's just one of those things that AC is just not really talked about as like a sustainability issue. You always think the electricity side of it's the problem, but not the refrigerant gas itself.
Yes, absolutely. So you can drive a lot for the same amount of CO2 if you release by accident, hopefully, release some of the refrigerants into the environment. So you're right, yes. And Jan also speaked out of our hearts, I would say, because it's one of the things we see the most of the time into the breweries or in the breweries that the brewers have a lot of love or a lot of passion for their product, and but most of the time they don't see the energy they need to use for it, and often they use way too much because I don't judge them, but they just don't know it, and that's the thing behind it, and that's one of our ideas that we go into the breweries and talk about this thing, and then often they're super happy because no one explained it to them, and no one already they don't get it because they never heard about it, and often they're super happy and want to invest into new things. So because in on the other end there will be a lot of savings because you will not use as much energy as before. So it's great, and it's also great for the environment because we need less electricity, or we need less steam, or we need less gas and oil, and all of these things.
Yeah, I agree, Max.
There's a good American saying,
Also,
you don't know what you don't know.
Yes, you don't know what you don't know. Yes, absolutely.
Ignorance is bliss is a slightly
Yeah.
more cruel one. So what type of refrigerants? Just to make this very clear, we're talking about refrigerants for the Glycol chillers, or generally chiller units in breweries today. So
Yes.
what type of refrigerants are available to brewers, and sort of why do they differ?
Yes. So there are, or you can say there's one there's one refrigerant for all of them. So because they have different sizes, they have different places on Earth. So if you have your brewery like in Denmark, you need maybe another refrigerant than if you have it like in South Africa. And also there is a depends on how you can set up your chiller. So maybe you can only set up in the basement, or you can only set it up on the roof, or maybe you can only set it up next to your neighbor, and your neighbor is like a young family with children and all of that. But as Jan already said, the future are natural refrigerants, absolutely. So we are thinking the same. Most of the chillers we bring into the breweries are also filled with natural refrigerants. For example, R290, like propane, and this is one of those refrigerants we would we would like to say it's perfect for breweries. If you have like another sizes, then we can talk about maybe another refrigerant because of the power you need, or the cooling capacity you need. But at the end, you need to have a look into the brewery, because you need to see how they brew, because for example, if they have like a 2-stage water cooler, if they have air-cooled storage cellars, or if they have like cooling jackets on their storage cellars, if it is a air-cooled chiller or is it a water-cooled chiller, and you need to see the whole brewery and think about it, because there are so many ways you can not just cool with your chiller. There are also many ways you can do like heat recovery and stuff like that. And if you have like heat recovery, you also can think about another refrigerant. That's many of those things you need to know, but I don't need to know, but need to think about it. But like absolutely, natural refrigerants will be the future at any ways, because also of the further regulations maybe we'll talk about later. And in those natural refrigeration, sorry, in those natural refrigerants, there are also different ways. So we have propane, butane, ammonia also, and it's a market. It grows a lot at the moment because of the regulations. There are more companies who offers chillers with those refrigerants, and there will be a big future for it.
When I travel around and visit small craft breweries, which are my main customers, I often find the Chinese produced R410A chillers. And when I address them, they have no clue what they actually bought. So I'm wondering if there will be a rude awakening for these crafties.
Yes, maybe let's split this question in two parts. So one of them like those Chinese chillers, and the other one with the refrigerant R410A. So the refrigerant R410A is not affected by any direct ban at the moment. There will be a ban in the future. So for AC or air conditioning, it will be in the beginning of 2029. And for process cooling, it will be at the beginning of 2027. So there's not, it's very soon, yes. There's not direct ban right now, but also we have like the F-gas regulation. It's like a EU thing. And the target of this regulation is to reduce the amount of especially refrigerants with a high GWP, like R410A, step by step. So the aim for the whole regulation will be that the market will actually regulate itself. So because the refrigerant R410A will be a lot more expensive the next years. So especially a lot of users like ACs or breweries or companies who have like chiller processes will switch into another refrigerant, and so that will happen in the next years. And one of those who have to deal with it will be the users of chillers with R410A. Yes, that's right.
Max, can I just quickly ask you a couple of questions? One, how does a brewery, or Jan can answer this, how does a brewery check what refrigerant their chiller has? And also, will this ban on R410A come into place on existing chillers using that refrigerant? Will they have to be taken away, or is it just on new chillers being brought?
So first of all, they can check it like on the chiller itself. There should be like a small label or badge where you can read the type plate, where you can read like the power consumption, the cooling capacity, the refrigerant, the manufacturing year, and stuff like that. There should be a small small batch. Especially in Germany, there's also like a small booklet in the chiller where the maintenance company write into their things, and that should be the easiest way to find it out. The second question, no, they don't need to remove those chillers at those dates. It's just for new chillers, they come into the market.
Nice.
And there will also be the users will also be allowed to service them.
Okay.
So there will be not right. Okay, you need. There will not be a date where you can or where you need to remove it right now, but you need to think about the future at this certain point, because it will be harder to get the refrigerant. It will be harder to get spare parts and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, that makes to future-proof your brewery by considering that. I mean, it's like buying a diesel car these days.
Yes, maybe one thing I want. Please don't throw your chillers right away right now, because they're still good. If they're still working, use them. Don't get me wrong. It's would be a bad idea to uh, remove them right now and buy anything new, because if it is working, never touch a running system. If it is working great, use it. No worries. But you need to think about it and have it like to remember it at some point that there could be problems in the future.
And I come with a remark.
Yes.
Because in our case, with the propane chiller,
Yes.
either we've been lucky or we chose the right supplier. This thing has never. And a service technician on our island, he says, "What is this? I've never seen a chiller did not have to do a refill." So if you always have to do refills on your chiller and your service technician loves you because he earns so much money on you, then you might consider buying something of quality with a good net future-proof refrigerant.
Yes, or maybe change your maintenance guy. So normally those systems are proof, or they should be sealed. There shouldn't be a leak to the environment, because it's a closed system. You always need a higher pressure than you got around around the environment. So there shouldn't be a leak. Maybe after 10, 15 years, it could be possible because of maintenance work that you have lost a bit, but never like every year or stuff like that. I know also a lot of breweries who fill up their chillers every year, unfortunately. But no, that shouldn't be the idea behind it. Should run for itself, yes, without refilling.
So I think there was a second part to Jan's question.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, well,
About
that was my fault. I distracted everyone as always.
No worries. Yes. So don't get me wrong. Those products are also good, and they have a great way of working. And don't get me wrong, you should also be allowed to buy Chinese or Asian products. But it's just like a product, and it's not very individual, you know. And the process or the brewing process is also very individual itself. From brewer, it's different between every brewery, and the same way they use their chiller different. And if you buy stuff like that, you can. It's just like a plug and play.
So what I think is, or what I hear you say is that these plug and play chillers from China are not tailor made for the individual brewery.
Absolutely, yes.
You could do it more efficient, more fitted to the processes needed.
Absolutely, that's right. So that's why we should, or why you should talk to your local refrigerant or refrigeration guy, because they can bring a lot of knowledge and a lot of ideas into it. And those products, if you buy them like on I don't know, in the internet, they're just made for cooling. And it's really sad, because if you know how to use it, you can do like a heat recovery, use the power you are cool, or use the energy you're cooling out of your product, use it again in your brewery. And that's a bit sad, because you should use it and know how to work with it, and often your local guys can work with it. And so my idea is, all brewers are proud of their local product and should maybe work together with their local companies and do a great thing with also with the beer and the refrigerant, or the chillers.
Yeah,
Makes
I like.
sense, particularly considering service. You
Yes,
will probably not get someone from Far East to help you if you're
yes, you can
trouble.
get, yes, right. You can call your local guy, and ask him a question, or if you need any help, they will be happy to help you.
I've got a question for you. So there'll be some people listen to this. Maybe they go check their chillers, and they'll start
I hope.
panicking that they've got this R410A in. Is it possible for people to simply change the refrigerant in their chillers?
So first of all, please don't panic. don't get. That's what I said. Don't get me wrong. Please don't panic. There will be some years you can use it, or several years you can use your refrigerant again. But yes, in some ways you can change the refrigerant, but not in all, because those refrigerants have different levels of pressure. So, for example, R410A works at a very high pressure level, and propane at a way more lower level of pressure. They do the same, they cool, but they work on different levels of pressure, and that's why there are different components in a circuit of refrigerant, like the compressor, or the oil from the compressor maybe is not working together. So it's not that easy to change, or to just change it. Once again, you need, or the best way is to ask your local refrigeration guy.
Okay, so thank you for that. That's
No,
really useful. I understand that there are synthetic refrigerants with a somewhat low global warming potential.
Yes.
When do natural refrigerants make sense, and when does synthetic refrigerants with a low global warming potential make sense?
Once again, it's not that easy to say but you need to know the propane is like the propane we know from the barbecue, the gas barbecue. It's almost the same. It's just 100% pure, and there's not like those smelling into it. So it's like 100% pure. And if you have large, or if you need huge cooling capacity, it could be, or it's obviously you need a lot of refrigerant. And if you have special like a special setup, or only it's only possible to set up the chiller in the basement or next to your neighbor or whatever, then it could be easier to use another refrigerant, which is not like flammable, like propane. Another idea is that or let's compare it with ammonia. If you have like breweries which are in the middle of the city. Often they still use huge amounts of ammonia right now, but more and more of them say, hey, it's a little bit too dangerous. We have like, I don't know, 13 tons of ammonia, and we're in the middle of the city, and the government and the city has a lot harsher regulations, and we need to do something. And of course, it's possible to use propane instead of it, but maybe it's easier to use one of those low GWP refrigerants. It depends. So first of all, our idea is to use natural refrigerants, but maybe the circumstance says, okay, it's easier to use another one, or it's safer to use another refrigerant.
I have a remark. As for these synthetic refrigerant, timeline-wise, R22, which was a fluorofluorocarbon, was replaced by R410A, which is a fluorocarbon, which now can be replaced by an HFO. They have a like global warming potential of like 400, 500 around there. But
Yes.
the production of these guys releases something called PFAS, which is a polyfluoroalkali substances, which are suspected to result in cancer and all kinds of hazardous situations for humans. Can you explain that?
So the topic is very, very complex, and I try to try my best to explain it in English. It will be a hard one. PFAS or PFAS, most of them we call it PFAS. Those PFAS problem affected many industries, not just the refrigerant industry or the chiller industries, because PFAS belongs to many products, and PFAS itself, it belongs to the so-called forever chemicals. And if these substances are released into the environment, they do not decompose. They are like forever in the environment, into the soil or into the water. And yes, there are right now into water and right into the soil. Refrigerants are releasing PFAS into the environment, but only if they get into the environment. So it's more important to check your chiller if it is leaking or stuff like that, because it's only producing PFAS if it got into the environment, and not the refrigerant itself is a PFAS substance. It got into PFAS into PFAS when it got into the environment. So it's kind of, let me see, if it's decomposed in the environment or in the air, then it's split into different substances, and one of those could be PFAS. Not at all, or not all refrigerants decompose into PFAS and other ones, but some of them. And unfortunately, especially the HFOs at the moment. So like there are 1, 2, 3, 4 YF.
We spoke about ammonia, huge amounts of ammonia in breweries located in city centers. Yeah, as we know, is poisonous. So I've heard from many breweries that they try to reduce the amount of the refrigerant, the filling amount. And I've heard particularly from a brewery in southern Germany that has reduced from, I think, 600 kilos to 60, if I remember correctly. No, 6,000 kilos.
Yes, sounds more like.
Yeah, 6,000.
Yes.
And I believe it's because they switched from direct evaporation, the tanks, or room cooling, to glycol that is being pumped into cooling jackets. I cannot imagine how else this should be carried out. And the hydraulic system, right?
Yes,
Can
absolutely
you?
right. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So my colleague Chris and I also had a project like reducing or switching a brewery from ammonia cooling into direct cooling with glycol and a new chiller. So there was like, I think 7 tons of ammonia or 7,000 kilograms of ammonia. And yes, we switched them, and yeah, there depends. There are many pro points or good points, and there are also some negative points. Don't let that out. But once again, it depends what do you want for your brewery. So especially if you have like set up or a situation in a city or next to I don't know industries with special production or stuff like that, it could be very hard for the breweries to get into the regulations of or into the local regulations, and also the machines or the chill itself got more and more complex. And so our idea is to reduce the complex of the chiller into just one chiller, and build up or set up a hydraulic system, so you can have like a heat exchanger where you get your refrigerant onto the glycol, and after that it's just pumps and valves and stuff like that. And another good point is most of those things who got maybe broken in the future, a good maintenance guy or a good brewer can repair it itself, because it's easier to switch a pump or a valve in a glycol circuit than in a ammonia or refrigerant circuit. You always need specialists for the ammonia and the other refrigerant things. And yes, so far we are really happy with those systems, and they're working great. Yes, maybe a example. The brewery we changed from ammonia into glycol. They got a ice bunker with direct ammonia evaporation, and just the ventilation of the ice bunker needed more power than all new pumps right now. So because we used frequency-driven pumps, and we just used the right power, the right size of pumps, and there are a lot of savings. And right now, the whole system has a less power consumption up to 15-20% when we switch it from ammonia to our new chiller, a train chiller, and the hydraulic system.
Nice.
So it's huge numbers, not just some savings, huge numbers.
Wild, because normally direct evaporation is considered more efficient, right? But to here, I think.
Yes, absolutely. It's if you add glycol to the water, it will be even worse the efficiency. But you need to see it different, because we can also do a lot of better heat recovery with those kind of chillers. You can storage your glycol, your cold glycol. So if you have maybe like a solar on your roof, and you can produce cool glycol and storage it like into a huge, I don't know, buffer tank or stuff like that. It's way much easier to storage it than ammonia, and yes, it's depends on the brewery again, but we made a lot of good experience that way.
So what you're explaining there is, so just to get my head around it, so
Yes.
what you were just explaining there sounds like a very typical craft brewery setup where they're cooling glycol and they're having it into a reservoir. But are you talking about ammonia cooling that glycol?
Could be also possible. Absolutely. As I said, glycol, ammonia is also a great refrigerant. Most of the times when we got into the breweries, the ammonia chiller is very old and affected by repairs and stuff like that. That's the reason why we try to change it completely and not just reduce the amount. But right now we have a project where the target will be to reduce the amount of ammonia. It's a good chiller. It's a great ammonia chiller, and it would be worse to switch it completely. But it would be great to reduce it, because also if you reduce the amount of ammonia, you have not so hard regulations on the local government and stuff like that. And you need less power, of course, and less maintenance and less stuff like that.
Yeah, and I don't think I've ever seen like an ammonia loop, chilling loop, or direct evaporation loop in my life, actually. So it'd be pretty cool to see one, even if
Yes,
they are going
it's
slowly out of date by the sounds of it.
yeah, it's especially in huge breweries, they set it up with ammonia, and there are also projects or breweries who still build greenfield breweries with ammonia. Don't get me wrong, ammonia is a great way of cooling. It's just a different way of thinking, or a different way of working with cooling than we do. Because we say, okay, we cannot just, or our thinking is not just cooling. Our thinking is how we can use the energy in the whole brewery, like pre-water or pre-cooling for brewing water, or again heat recovery, or storage your cool glycol for some hours and stuff like that.
Yes.
I find that very interesting with taking the peak and producing the thermal energy you need when you have the electrical power or cheap night power, and storing it, flattening the peaks. This is I use that a lot in Svanik, and it really we have some nice performance indicators due to this. Also wanted to remark that the refrigerant ammonia really has a very high coefficient of performance. So the electrical energy you put in, you get a lot of thermal energy out of that. And propane actually has a very nice coefficient performance too, which is a tiny bit lower than ammonia. So I find these two refrigerants really, really brilliant. Just to come with my humble opinion.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's important to have that. And yeah, so I guess they're the two natural types of refrigerants that you'd be sort of I'm not saying recommended, because I know everything's different, but they're the two you would recommend.
CO2 is also a refrigerant.
Yes, absolutely.
So Max, when you visit breweries and you're looking at their do you just look at their cooling demand, or do you also make a survey of their overall demand for thermal energy?
So it's funny, because most of the time, like, our opener or our invitation is because of the chiller or the cooling, because people often say, hey, can you come visit us, because we have problem with our chiller, we have not enough cooling capacity, and it's old, and maybe we need a new one and stuff like that. And often they ask us, like, can you just offer us a new chiller or a new cooling plant? And then we say, okay, we will, no worries, but at first, can we come visit you and see the chiller and see a brewery? Because we won't just sell you anything because you want it. Our idea is to make it tailor-made or tailor-fit, a tailor-fit tailor-fit chiller. And yes, we have we call it Systemanalyse or system analysis. And then we come to the breweries and visit them, and they just show us their brewery, and then we talk about it. And the most of the time our question is why. So why you do it like that? Why you do it, or why is the set point of the chiller like that? Why is the set point of your storage cellar like that? And then we got it, and then the brewers are open and say, I don't know, we always do it the same way, like forever. And then we come into it, and then we say, okay, let's see the whole system, and then we find, or then our idea is to check if you have a chiller with 100 kilowatts of cooling capacity, we measure it if it is coming out of the chiller, and then we see if it comes, or does it reach the consumers. So like the storage cellars, like the water cooler, like the CCTs and stuff like that. And most of the time we produce 100 kilowatts of cooling capacity, but the consumers maybe reaches 60 kilowatts or stuff like that. And then the search begins. Then we try to find out where we have our losers. So because you use electricity or power for 100 kilowatts of cooling, but you only got 60 kilowatts on your system. And that's how we start. And often if you check those systems, we see a lot of another points we would like to talk about with the brewery. And once again, don't get me wrong, we don't judge them. It's just our we specialized on those kind of things. And then often they see, okay, shit, maybe I did something wrong, or it's just a valve with a wrong setting. We visit breweries, they ask for a new chiller, we visit them, and say, hey, it couldn't be right to sell you a new chiller because it's working very well. And then we have an overlook on the system, and it was just one valve, so that we reduce the flow on the heat exchanger, on the plate heat exchanger, so that the water was running way too fast over the heat exchanger, and they never could reach the temperature because it was way too fast over it. And then we reduce it, and after that they were happy. So we haven't sold a chiller, but we have a happy customer, and that's our idea. And that's our idea of doing it. And yes, that's how we do it. And as I said, it's not just the cooling, it's also heat recovery and the water cooling, and sometimes also the steam production, or the different ways of storage things. A lot of breweries have air-cooled storage cellars. Maybe most of the time with CCTs with a cooling jacket, but they have a old storage cellar, and some years ago they changed the CCTs, got new ones into it with a cooling jacket, but they still use the air-cooled fan coils. And then we say, please change it, because it's way more efficient to use the cooling jackets than the air cooling of the storage cellar, for example. Or sometimes they use way too much glycol in their system, because if you add glycol, the efficiency or the performance, the heat capacity, thanks, Jan, gets worse, really worse. And if they use way too much glycol, You can just not transfer any energy, and stuff like that. That's often things we do in the breweries, and that's how we do it. Yes.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah,
Some really
there's
cool tips.
the coolants are actually quite important to think about. Mm, As you mentioned, Max, there's the normal ethylene glycol, which is
Yeah.
widely used. It's however poisonous. I know it's applicable and many do, but there's also other alternatives, non-poisonous and even biologically degradable and even biologically produced. There's just for the chemistry, ethylene glycol is ethane diol, and there's bioglycol, which is propane diol, to be mixed with propylene. What's it
Yes.
called? Propane diol, which is the non-poisonous alternative to classic glycol. So if you're putting a bit of interest into this, you can actually get something that is environmentally friendly and even has some good capacities as for energy transport and storage. And this is an interesting topic for me. Let's just compare. Ethylene glycol has a heat capacity of roughly 3.5, whereas water would have 4.2 kilojoule per kilogram in Kelvin, which is
Yes.
to
Absolutely.
know. Yes, and so this bioglycol has 3.7 kilojoule per kilogram in Kelvin, which is already a bit better. However, viscosity is higher, pump energy will be a bit higher, but compared to like the classical propane diol, which has a viscosity that is double from ethylene glycol, it's interesting to look into this alternative. Yeah, so this is worth considering. Absolutely, it's a bit more expensive, definitely future-proof, and not harmful to the product if there should be leaks.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes. That's right. It depends how on once again it depends on the brewery, but yes, there are different ways of using those. At the end, it's like anti-freeze protection. That's the reason why we're using it, and there are different products. Yes, absolutely. You can use ethylene, propane. How do you call it? Sorry,
Propane
I,
diol.
propanediol. Yes, thanks.
Yeah,
And
wonderful propane diol.
also like pure alcohol or stuff like that. There are different ways of doing it. Yes.
Yeah, actually, the bioglycol and the classical propane diol are chemically so close to each other that you need to be an expert to understand the difference. So you have to really investigate bioglycol. If you just Google propane diol, the hit will be the old school stuff that you don't
Okay.
need. So contact me if there's any interest in this. Yeah, there's a remark. In our brewery, I use simply vodka to carry the thermal energy. So 30% of ethanol blended with water and a bit of corrosion inhibitor. And this was very good because we have a very high heat capacity, and actually the viscosity is just marginally higher than one of ethylene glycol. So this made a lot of sense for us. However, it's considered a flammable liquid with a 30%. For some reason, Danish authorities didn't really mind because, well, I don't know why, but we were lucky.
Okay. That's also a cool way of doing it. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Probably
I
because you're on an
actually had
island, yeah.
to
With anything
put-
on an island.
probably. I actually, times just as a gag, when I was giving guided tours in the breweries, I would pour myself a glass and drink it because it was
Oh.
absolutely not harmful to the environment.
Yes.
But then when people from the brewery, they saw that, so they started doing the same. So I had to bung that.
Hopefully at the end of the guided tour, not at the beginning.
Yeah.
Depended
Okay.
on my mood.
Guys, is there anything else you would like to add to the episode, or is there any summaries you would like to make?
So maybe the brewers ask themselves, what can they do right now? So I think one good idea is just to measure and to collect your data of your capacity or your energy consumption. Sorry, not capacity. Your energy consumption, especially for the chiller. Most of the brewers do it quite good. Like they know how much oil they use, how much gas they use, how much yeast they use and stuff like that, how much water they use, brewing water, but most of them don't know how much electricity or how much power they use for the different processes like cooling or even compressed air. It's also quite interesting, and that could be a cool start just to work with your system and get into your system. Just collect data, and it's not that expensive. Like a energy meter, we call it energy meter. You can quite easily let it install from your local electric guy, and just to measure and see, okay, which process or which part of my brewery needs which power and which energy, and that could be a cool start for itself. And after that, you have also data to compare with different seasons, maybe with the winter and with the summer and with the fall, and then you can just compare and see, okay, maybe what was different, or which kind of beer needs which power or stuff like that. That could be a cool start to do kind of a system analysis to yourself or into your brewery itself.
Absolutely, something I would strongly recommend doing as well. It's a good it's a good project, and it'll be really educational for sure.
Yes, and just to have those data, maybe for later if you change your cooler or your chiller. Yes.
I would like to think sustainable. What comes from nature and goes back to nature, how could it be better? Biodegradable, non-poisonous, if possible. Of course, ammonia is a key thing, but just think like by means of nature and our planet and our climate. And at the end of the day, it should be a good result.
I agree, yeah. And pay more attention to your refrigerant and your chiller itself. It's quite easy
Yes.
to buy it and let it sit and run and maybe have someone come and service it once a year. But to actually pay attention on what you can do with it, and if you're looking to buy a new one, there's quite a lot of information you need to know in order to make a good informed decision, I think. Would it be okay if I put some sort of contact details in the show notes in case anyone has any questions on refrigerants and maybe chillers, etc., if they want someone's opinion?
Sure, why not?
Of course.
Maybe we have a lot of work, but I try to answer as fast as I can. Just a little key fact, or a little to get a feeling how important it is to see if your chiller is running properly or is running right. If you put down your set point of the chiller just 1 Kelvin or one degree less than at the moment as it is, like if you put it from -4 to -5 or -6, one Kelvin is like 3 to 4% more electricity power consumption. That's a huge, it's a huge number. And if you can check it and see, maybe I can put it up like on -4 or -3, it's always also running quite good. Then that's the first step of saving money. And yes, just get into your cooling system. and check it if it is running good and great, and do what you want.
Awesome.
Good
Yeah, that's a
one.
really good point. I really like that. And it's nice to have those numbers. That like 1 degree is roughly 3 or 4%. That really helps brewers that live and die by numbers often. So it's really good.
Yes,
to have that
absolutely.
Sort of guideline. Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, unless there's anything else anyone wants to add.
Oh,
Not at the moment right now. No.
Perfect. Okay, well, look, guys, thank you so much for your time and your effort in this podcast. It's been really, really educational for me, which I hope means it's going to be really enjoyable for the listeners who are going to be listening to this. So both thank you, Jan, and thank you, Max, so much for coming on the podcast.
welcome.
You're welcome. Very welcome. Yes.
Okay, that's it, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to the latest episode of the Modern Brewer podcast. The next episode will be out in a couple of weeks' time, and I hope to catch you there on the next episode of the Modern Brewer podcast.